So I'm someone that believes in signs. And what I mean by that is taking direction from the universe, uh, deity, divine, whatever, what you will, with that, and noticing coincidences or just different things that come up at the right time, right in your life. And for me, actually, funny enough, uh, that was something with my Norse spirituality. I got really deep into looking into Gnosticism, which is sort of an uh, early Christian sort of sect, if you will. Um, Not saying I was going down that route, but it there was a lot of stuff going on in my life, and I was like, hey, this is resonating, and uh, this is interesting to me. I'm always fond of learning new things, and a lot of stuff politically and in the United States right now kind of went together with some of the ideas of the Gnostics. That's not to say that there is a Nordic paganism and Gnostic sort of point of view that you can put together, and that's where my head started to go. But uh, I started to question. I started to question whether I was in the right spiritual path, and uh, I started to think about where I was going. And that lasted probably for about 2 or 3 months. I was really starting to think about it. And two things have recently happened that have pushed me back into the realm of Norse mythology and Norse spirituality, Germanic paganism. And one of those was during my now tenure as a tattoo apprentice, that I was really getting into the traditional and blackwork style pieces that's on my Instagram, and started to lean less into the Nordic knotwork. Sometimes people put Celtic as well, the knotwork and Nordic type designs. And I really wasn't getting a lot of traction with them in the first place. But uh, it was difficult. I really enjoyed the traditional designs and just having fun drawing. And not to say that the Nordic knotwork wasn't fun, it's just a bit complicated. And more recently, actually, I had a number of people reach out to me because I do have that uh, Nordic specialty on my profile, for Nordic type designs, and kind of pushing me also in that direction, for those Nordic type designs. Now, the second non coincidence I will say is last year I last year I invested in a Kickstarter for Northern Black, and that is a tattoo artist slash company slash Isar Oakman is the name of the guy, but I invested in their Kickstarter, which was I think like April of last year. Uh, you know, they were gonna have rune cards. They were gonna, rune stones, mats, artistry, books, all this sorts of stuff, and it was supposed to actually be mailed out in November, and it didn't get mailed out for things were getting pushed back in terms of the people that were making the stuff right for them. Uh, our fucking tariffs that our president, if you will, decided he was going to try to impose failed. you know, um, yeah. So tariffs, and just things happened, and actually this is all during the time where I was questioning things, and the recency of the Nordic requests for tattoos and designs came up, And surprisingly, the package from the Kickstarter got mailed out and came at a time where I was starting to lean back more into. Now, if I wasn't into it as much before, getting this whole like couple $100 thing with all this cool stuff was great, but I wouldn't have felt more drawn to it, right? If I wasn't starting to lean back more into the Nordic stuff. So, uh, so that was some insight I think I wanted to give in terms of uh, where my headspace was at. Recently now I've started to really focus on developing the Nordic style a little more, understanding it better, how to draw it, how to tattoo it. Um, and I this video I want to say is also that I think that there are other tattoo artists that can be out there and doing these knotworks of people that don't follow um, necessarily any kind of Norse or Celtic spirituality. But I think from an authentic standpoint, that having someone that does uh, that solely or primarily, and someone that really takes a passion in the designs, um, and really knows and puts that into the work, uh, I think is important. And case in point, I did some runic type design for a client recently, and I was able to do a rune cast and put those runes into a bind rune for the person to add to their design. Something that I guess someone could technically do if they just randomly took runes offline. Not saying that they would know necessarily which ones are correct and which ones are from elder or younger or other runic type alphabets, but I also thought that I would do an unboxing of sorts with the box that I did get from Northern Black. Now, I did pay a good amount to support the cause, but I did not think that I would get as much value out of it necessarily as I thought they would be. And not saying they would be cheap, but it's certainly not cheap, but that the amount of care that was put into these and put into the stuff in the box is a lot more than I even expected. So these are, I think, some of them are still, or most of them are still available online to purchase. If you didn't support the Kickstarter, but they're probably more expensive now. Um, so the first thing looks like, I don't know if this was done en masse or individually, which would be a lot for the hundreds of people that supported them. But this looks like Isar Oakman, the guy from Northern Black's design for a bind rune. Um, Now, I don't know if this is individually painted. It looks like it was painted because it does look like some watercolor paper or canvas here, uh, but probably with some finishing spray so it doesn't get lost in the or doesn't get rubbed off. Um, so funny enough, I did. I do not remember paying for a runic diary, I guess, or journal, but this was also in my box as well. So depending on what type of pull you're doing with the runes or casting, again, the Web of Weird design that is on the box and are a number of different things of his own making of a kind of a bind rune or Web of Weird type design. For that, I do plan on using it to kind of familiarize myself more again with the runes, as well as do different castings for my own insight as well. Uh, so this is the cover of one of the books. Now this is a picture of Odin, kind of, I guess, getting insight from the runes after he fell from the tree, right? Of course. Um, and as well as another picture of, I'm not quite sure, looks like a bookmark though, that I should probably be using for the book that I am reading, which I'll talk about. Uh, but this all goes along with the other designs. I don't have them up in this room, uh, but they are very unique designs, all done by Galaxara, who is helpful for all the designs for the other things that I'm going to show as well. But something to put into a frame and put on a wall as well. What I have been reading, which has that picture on there, is this book called The Runes, Reading, Casting, and Understanding the Elder Futhark, which is the oldest sort of version. If you want to go Proto-Germanic, then maybe a little older, but this is pretty much the oldest version of the runes, is the Elder Futhark. In here, there's the description of the runes, how they sort of came about, a brief story on Odin sort of discovering the runes and how he got them and was able to pass them down to humans in the Germanic pagan Norse mythology as well. And then they go into the pictures of each of the rune cards that I'll talk about, as well as descriptions and when you're pulling them and how to help. Very very detailed on how to help read the runes, read the rune cards, and just understand the meaning behind each of them as well. Very, very sizable book, I think, for the amount that was coming with everything, but I think that is good as well. So again, not something that I remember purchasing, and certainly, I not that I don't remember, is that I definitely didn't purchase this. So for people that do play uh, Dungeons and Dragons or other tabletop games like that, this is a runes in RPG, and essentially it's how to use the runes in a tabletop game like Dungeons and Dragons, in a tabletop RPG, and not to say this is the be all end all of how to use it, but this is a guide that he wrote on people that, if you are looking to incorporate using runes and maybe rune casting, rune drawing, all that stuff within a tabletop game like Dungeons and Dragons or an RPG like that, this is something that would be useful. I will look through it, but I don't really have anyone to play Dungeons and Dragons with right now. But like I said, I didn't purchase this, so sorry if you do happen to see this video for whatever reason. I don't know if it was because I was one of the first backers or by accident, but thank you very much for the extra stuff that I think I got in my box. I don't know if that was other people because we were waiting a while for things. I'm not sure, but very thankful to have that extra stuff. Now, this is a mat for drawing the rune cards. Now, it is very sizable. Clearly, I'm not going to go my head. And it has spaces for about 12 cards here. And this, I suppose, I've never done a lot of rune drawing in the sense of pulling runes out and doing like a past, present, future, or a 3 type pull of the runes like you would in maybe more of a tarot type pull. But I'm sure that's in the book on the runes themselves. I'm more of a rune caster in that I like to pull 3, 5, whatever runes and kind of throw them down and interpret it there. And I'd be interested to kind of see how pulling the cards would be, and a very different type of rune pulling. Now, in the rune casting comes the runes themselves. So these are the rune stones, and they're all essentially stones, as you can see right here. And they all have, obviously, a rune on the other side. I think there is a blank rune, the Odin rune. Now, this is not typical for every set of runes, just because there's debate on whether or not the Odin rune or the blank rune was used. There's a lot of most of it is saying that there was no blank rune necessarily, and it's also acknowledged saying that okay, well, if you need another rune or one of the runes gets lost or damaged or whatever, obviously you can remake it with that one rune, almost like an extra. But there are people that use the blank rune. I'm just not one that uses the blank rune in any of my casting as well. And if I do end up pulling it, I'll just pull another one from the bag to cast, or just not include that in the reading because they'll already be cast at that time, most likely. But the the biggest focus, I think, is the cards. Now, runes aren't typically put in card form. They're either bone or metal or resin or um, stone. Like those are anything wood, burned to wood. You don't typically see runes done in cards, and I was looking at them, playing around with them, and they are not usable in terms of a casting thing, only because it'd be very hard to cast them because they are quite sizable and they are quite thick as well. But for the purposes of using them in divination, I think they are alone, I think, worth the amount that I guess invested or supported them for. Now, each card, which was also in the Runes book, has their own unique drawing. Again, no AI was used here. Galaxara, the one that helped him put this all together, did draw up all these designs and put them on the cards. They are quite thick. They are not. It's not very thin and flimsy. But you wouldn't cast these in the way that you would cast rune stones, only because they're cards, they're hard. It's gonna be hard to shuffle them. But I was talking with my wife, and you are able to shuffle them in certain ways. And I think it'll be interesting to try and use them on the mat as sort of pulling them. And when I say pull, I pull from a deck. Casting is kind of tossing. So it will be interesting to kind of learn to do it that way in some respects. But I am in love with a lot of these designs. These are amazing. I think the prints are available, so if you like one of these designs, want to get on the bigger kind of 8x11 sheet, they do tend to have them online, among other things. But I think this is all important, and again, not believing necessarily in coincidences as much as the universe kind of dictating, pushing me in certain directions. The tattoo clients coming to me, as well as all of this coming at a time when I had sort of been debating what direction I want to take spiritually, only further proves the point that I think this is direction, and I'm enjoying again drawing those designs. And well, I also forgot that this is a shirt that I did buy, that I did buy with the Kickstarter, which is again the Web of Weird version that he has on all this stuff here as well. But with all that said, having someone that not only can do these designs but has a passion for it, someone that you can talk with about this stuff, really understands the nature of things, and not someone that would necessarily just like okay, you want a wolf and this and that. Like, knowing the understanding. I have a design that I drew up recently for a client, knowing the understanding of wolves in Norse mythology and why you would include other certain symbols with those wolves versus someone that would just draw a wolf in a Nordic type design. You know, understanding that and being able to include elements that a non Germanic pagan would not necessarily think to include in those designs. Um, but if you are looking for a Norse related tattoo or a Nordic type tattoo, whether it be knotwork or something of that nature, and you would like someone that is passionate about that stuff and can incorporate other things, into your design that someone that doesn't follow the path wouldn't, feel free to reach out. But I just wanted to give an insight into the box and everything that was included in here, include the shirt and everything. That this is well worth the money, and I think it came at the right time for me. Like I said, my thoughts about everything were kind of waiting, and I've had two big things come up that have really driven me back into that mode of thinking and realizing that, maybe this, as I was questioning things, that, you know, the gods kind of showed me that this is my path, and or this is generally the direction I should be taking, at least. So if you are in the New York area, are in the Albany area, come get tattooed if you're looking for a Nordic tattoo. Otherwise, I have no problem shooting the shit about anything Nordic or Norse pagan or Germanic pagan. What will, uh, if you want to shoot me a DM about those things or just talk about those things. But my Instagram handle is Jeff Barbarian Tattoo. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen, and I will see you guys later.